Imposter syndrome is something that is a real thing, and it's really hard to shake if you are experiencing it. Imposter syndrome is essentially the devil on your shoulder saying that you're not good enough, or you're not qualified enough, or you don't belong here, you shouldn't be doing this thing. And it's that constant negative self-talk in your head that's stopping you from pushing forward into doing something that your gut is probably screaming at you to do. For example, I'm living proof of that right now. I have major imposter syndrome at the minute recording this podcast. I really do. And I think it's because I care so much about my clients, and I want to make sure that everyone who comes through me through mentorship does really well. And imposter syndrome is something that it shows that you care, but it also shows that you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and you're doing something new. And the reason why I can't hold back on doing this any longer is because my gut is screaming at me to do this. Like, I am so passionate when I start talking about it. I am awake at night thinking about it. The first thing in the morning, it's all I'm thinking about. Like, I literally am consumed by it. And I remember when I was starting my first business and launching my first business, that's exactly the feeling I felt. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I had ideas flowing left, right and centre, and I couldn't get things down quick enough, or I couldn't get things done quick enough for what I wanted to do. And that's how I feel about this now, but it's a huge step up. But the reality is that if I want to get to where I want to be, which is a really successful entrepreneur and helping others get to where I am and investing in other people, especially in disadvantaged people who may come from low income households like I did, and helping them achieve their dreams or pursue their dreams or passions, that will make me so happy. Like, that will fulfill me. And I think to instill to people, even if people just listen to this podcast and feel inspired after it, or feel driven or motivated, or just sit back and realize that actually I think I'm made for more. And I think as well, it's like understanding that we deserve to take up space, like especially as women, men and women, but like not to play it small, not to just be like thinking small or playing it small, and daring to dream bigger and daring to go after the big thing. And I think you need to have a thick skin for it. You need to have, excuse my language, balls to do it. And honestly, going after the thing that you're scared of the most is the road that's harder to take, but it's always the one with the most reward. And for me, like, I'm in imposter syndrome at the minute in real time. Like, right now I am experiencing imposter syndrome because I am moving away from online coaching into mentoring. It's absolutely terrifying because online coaching was something that I was initially incredibly scared to go into, and I was afraid it wasn't going to work out. It ended up being a huge success. I've worked with over thousands of clients, and I've helped so many people achieve peace with food in their body, and I've helped so many people achieve compassionate or fat loss in a compassionate way, in a maintainable and sustainable way. And that has been like so fulfilling, and I've helped change people's lives, and it's been really, really fulfilling. However, I now have that itching feeling, like that itching gut feeling, where this is what I want to do. Like, I want to help people believe in themselves and following their dreams, and whatever that is. If it's starting your own business in particular, like, that's kind of where I'm going to be mainly focusing on. But hopefully this podcast will also help people. They're capable of so much more than they think. Sorry, I keep stuttering over my words. I think it's just nerves, and I'm hoping that after a couple of episodes that will go. But imposter syndrome is a real thing, and it is a hard thing to overcome. However, things that I'm doing right now as we speak to overcome it is taking action. So by me recording this podcast, even though I feel like a huge imposter, I know that taking this action will help me step forward into the person that I want to become. I also need to remind myself as well that, like, I have set up 2 successful businesses. I have proof that I am capable of mentoring clients because I've mentored clients already. I've helped friends set up their own businesses. I have proof that I am capable of doing the thing. It's just that I think the thing that was stopping me was that I'm not experienced at it yet. So I'm experienced enough in the sense I've been in business 4 years. So I can get from maybe like 1 to 4, but I can't get from 1 to 10. But I don't need to get from 1 to 10 to help people who need to get from 1 to 2. And I think that that's what people need to hear, that if you're someone who's starting out, whether it's starting your own business as a Pilates instructor, opening up your own gym, getting into online coaching, getting into online content creation, starting your first YouTube, starting your first podcast, whatever the goal is, you only need to focus on getting from 1 to 2, not from 1 to 10. And I think that that's something that I find so hard. I focus so much on the end goal of like where I see myself and what I'm visualizing, without realizing that there's actually a million steps in between that for me to get there, and I've obviously been showing up online for the bones of 6 years now, very consistently. And from 4 years ago, it was every single day, posting every single day. And yes, I've learned so much through building up my business, like 1000%. And I know I can help other people build theirs and get them from 1 to 4. But I know that in order for me to get people from 1 to 10, I myself need to go from 4 to 10. And I'm getting help with that, So I think it's not being afraid to ask for help really can help with imposter syndrome as well. Talking it out, like talking to your friends about it, talking to people who are supportive of you, talking to people who are in a position where you want to be. So I'm currently being mentored by someone who is in a position where I want to be and who can actually help me with the next steps. Potentially I could end up being on a mentorship beyond this that takes me even further than that, but it's about taking the next step. It's not about going from 1 straight to 10. It's about going from 1 to 2 and talking to people who are maybe in a position that you want to be in a year's time is a good start. Okay, naming it and taming it. So naming that negative self-talk in your head can be really helpful, or else using something which I like to call the self-observer technique. So the self-observer technique is something I've used for years myself, but I've also used it on many clients, and it's something that I think everyone can learn from. And it's essentially observing the thoughts in your head and not engaging in them. So pretending that there's like a little mini you sitting on your shoulder, and this is how I explain it to clients, and pretending that your thoughts are basically little parts of a rocket ship. Bear with me. So, the way a rocket ship goes into space and the end of the rocket ship blows off, like the ends of it blow off as it combusts. The pressure gets too much and then it combusts. It's kind of the same when there's a lot of thoughts going on in your head. You might feel very overwhelmed. And sometimes as a result of overwhelm, instead of taking action, you procrastinate, you feel tired, you feel emotionally dysregulated, you feel frustrated. And actually, sometimes the answer to that is action. If you can pretend that those thoughts in your head are in the bottom of that rocket ship that's going to space, okay? And the mini version of yourself is sitting here on your shoulder, and the rocket ship goes into space and the end of it blows up. It bursts into smithereens. And the residue, your thoughts, picture your thoughts written on the residue of the rocket ship, of the debris of the rocket ship. And they're floating around in space. They're floating around Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, Venus, Neptune. And you're watching, as the observer here, you've binoculars or a telescope, and you're watching the debris of the rocket ship and your thoughts written on them, and you're observing them. What that's doing, as they're floating around in space, you're giving your thoughts space and you're observing them rather than engaging in them. And what this does is it allows you to reframe your thoughts. So for example, it could be a thought, especially around imposter syndrome, it could be I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified enough, I'm not capable of doing this. And you could observe those thoughts and reframe. You can either observe them and move on with your day, not give them any airtime. You can observe them and be like, actually, I can do this. I am capable and I am going to do it. Watch me. Hence why I'm sitting here today. So there's 2 options or 3 options. You can engage in them and accept them. And also sometimes if it's positive thoughts, you can be empowered by them and you can be like, yeah, I can do this. I am capable. So it's all about rewiring your brain. And if you've listened to enough podcasts on neuroscience, which I have. There's one woman, she's incredible. I can't think of her name, but I'll leave it in the show notes. She's a visualization expert and she's been on a lot of big podcasts like Grace Beverley's, Stephen Bartlett's, Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson. Like, she's been on a lot of them. And she talks about the neuroscience and of visualization and how if you visualize every single day the person you want to show up as, you become that person. And I really believe in that because I did that when I wanted to become an online coach. I visualized every single morning being in Bali, working from my laptop, the sand between my toes. I visualized that inside out, upside down. And I didn't even have a PT cert at the time. And then 2 years later, there I was sitting in a cafe in Bali. Like, it was absolutely insane. It was the first time where I was like, I really visualized this, and it's after coming true. So the power of visualization is really, really, really helpful as well in getting you to where you want to be. And she actually says that if you practice it for 1 to 3 minutes every morning, that it really helps. So a part of my morning routine now is when I get up in the morning, I don't go on my phone for the first hour. So I do like the things that I want to do first, and I have that time to myself in the morning. So I get up, and I've started to have slower mornings recently where I make my cup of tea, make my breakfast, I sit down and I actually flick through Pinterest and I'm looking at like my vision board on Pinterest, and then I write down 3 things I'm grateful for and 3 affirmations in the present tense of the person that I believe I'm going to be. Basically sit in it and try and visualize it. And then my routine after that is I go for a walk. I get the majority of my steps in early in the morning because I just find it easier. It's also 40 degrees out here in Dubai, so like it's literally 40 degrees by 9 a.m. So kind of have no other choice. But to be honest, that's been my routine for years now, since like I was 19, 20. And then I listen to a podcast and I come home and shower and basically get ready for the day, and ideally sitting down at the laptop around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And I start into my first work block. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the power of observation and the self-observer technique in reframing negative self-talk is really helpful. I feel like that's nearly a podcast in itself, but anyway, that's a really helpful tip. And like naming it and taming it. So like naming the voice and then just being like, that's not true. You know, it's not true. And even sometimes if you feel like you're still having major imposter syndrome, you can still take action. So you can hold space for the imposter syndrome and you can accept it and you can still act anyway. Hence why I'm sitting here stuttering over my words doing this podcast. Like, I could probably record it again and it will be better the next time because I'll have more flow of my words and more flow of conversation. But the reality is I don't have the time to record it again. I need to record another episode and I don't have the money to keep paying for this podcast studio for hours and hours upon end. So it just has to go up imperfectly. And that's on imperfect action as well. Like, you have to just take imperfect action. You cannot wait for things to be perfect, to post, to go for it. It's never going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. I'm currently in the messy middle of basically shifting my whole career trajectory, and it's very upheaving and it's scary and it's terrifying, and part of me is like, what the actual F am I doing? And even when I came in here today to sit down to record, like, I was so excited to record this podcast because I feel like it is something a lot of people struggle with. But at the same time, I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I actually doing? And that's just the negative self-talk. That's the ego. But in reality, I know that this is what I want to do. I know that I'm so passionate when I speak about this. I know that it's a gut feeling and I'm just going with it. And the reality is that if it doesn't work out, that's great, because that's one thing that can be eliminated, that I tried. And at least I can say I tried, and I'm not going to look back and be like, I never did that and I told myself that I would. Another really helpful tip when it comes to imposter syndrome is honestly just understanding that it's because you care, and we're all human. Like, every single person experiences imposter syndrome. Like, people that you look up to, they experience imposter syndrome. The difference is that I think once you can show that you're a human being, and that it doesn't mean like people that we look up to or that we're inspired by don't get scared. They do, but they just act anyway. Okay, so if you take anything away from this podcast today, feel the fear and do it anyway. You're never going to feel ready to start. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. That's it. The minute you actually start taking action, the more momentum you'll gain off it, and the more you'll realize you can do the thing. Like I said, things do not need to be perfect to start. They really don't. When I started out first, when I was online coaching, I had not a clue. All I knew was that I cared about people. I wasn't the best programmer. I really didn't know the ins and outs of that. I just knew the basics when it came to training. I did know a lot about nutrition because I'd experienced years of it myself and the gym myself. So I had a lot of experience behind me, but I had no experience in actually coaching somebody else. And you just learn as you go. You make your mistakes, you learn. And guess what? People are human too. So when you make mistakes and you're honest in them, they really don't mind once you're honest with them. And all people care about is that you care. If I had a mentor and he said to me, or if my mentor right now was like, Kate, I'm actually not the best person to ask here, but I'm going to send you to someone who is, I would actually appreciate that so much more than someone who pretends to know what they're doing and then sends me completely in the wrong direction. And I would always have said that to my clients as well. Like if I wasn't the best person in regards to an injury or something like that, it's like a physio's job or a dietitian's job, I would always refer out because I'm not the best person for the job. So you don't need to know everything. People don't expect you to know everything, but you can use what you do know. And sometimes that's getting people from 1 to 2, not from 1 to 10. And that's what you need to remember. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I really hope you got some take homes for it. And hopefully it gives you the push to just start the thing. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and I'll chat to you soon.